Hello, very good evening. Good to see you. And thank you very much for all the wishes and thank you for spreading the word about EA as part of the Independence Day and the birthday greetings. So thank you very much. So we have received hundreds of queries on what we study in Enrolled Agent. Yeah, they have seen, our video on those 7 things that you should know about becoming an enrolled agent. I think my team will share in the description in the comment section the 7 things that you should know to become an enrolled agent. It's on YouTube, maybe on the Facebook also, iLead Tax Academy. Please type iLead Tax Academy or just go to the comment section now. You will see that video. Please follow that video and it has all the information about enrolled agent. Okay, I think you have seen this already in the course brochure, but still, people were asking me, what all do we study, sir, in this enrolled agent thing? So I thought, why not just show you up, right? So as you know, enrolled agent, I keep saying this always, right? It's a license. It's not just a qualification. It's a license that comes from the US government, the US Department of Treasury, Internal Revenue Service, right? You get this as a license. It's a credential and it's the highest credential as per the Internal Revenue Service, license to practice in all 50 states. I'm sure, you must have watched, this piece of it in our videos. Right, it can be completed in 3 to 4 months. Now you have exams in November in 2020 because of COVID. Otherwise, exams used to be conducted, every anytime in a month, except March and April. They were the blackout months because that's the tax season time. And you can just go over this with 71% pass rate, no written examination, so you need not worry about English and all, right? If you are able to understand, the written English I meant, if you are able to understand, what we are talking, if you are able to read it, because there is no descriptive answers you're going to write, you're just going to present the MCQs, just, A, B, C, D, right answers. Of course, there's no negative marking, that's another one. And it's a wonderful career option for people who were aspirants of CA, CWA, CS, CPA, CMA, but they couldn't do it for their own known reasons. Okay, so, and if you complete this and if you're working for a decent company, they may also sponsor you for US work visa. Okay, anyways, so that's all the advantages, and there are so many untold advantages that you will discover once you become an enrolled agent. Okay, and so as I said, EA will have 3 papers. Part 1 will talk about individual taxation, Part 2 talks about business taxation, Part 3 talks about representation, practice and procedures. Okay, so people have gone through this, but still they wanted to understand, what is it that they study still in depth. Okay, so as you're watching this, I encourage you to please share this video. Please share this video so that, others will also get benefited from this. Hi Joel. Yeah, thank you Deepti for sharing this. Yeah. And thanks to all the people who have joined us, who are watching us live. Okay. We are streaming this live on both Facebook and YouTube. Okay. Fine. So where do we find this information? So when you go to Google, okay, just type media team. Can you please zoom this for us? Just go to Google and type Prometric SEE exam. Okay, this is called the Special Enrollment Examination. Okay, Prometric SEE exam. This is how you got to find this. Now, when you see there, you see IRS Special Enrollment Examination Prometric. Okay, now you click on this. This link opens up, right? Prometric IRS Special Enrollment Examination. Now, important changes due to COVID-19, the delays and cancellations. People were supposed to write the examination in August, but due to COVID, they cannot, they couldn't take the examination. But yesterday also we had one of our students, who got placed in H&R block. Even before, they could complete their examination, even before they could give their examination, they got placed. because of the knowledge they demonstrate, right? The kind of knowledge they demonstrate, that was more important, that they could get their job, because when you answer the questions right, any company knows you, that they can still train you. So the tax software and all, they can always train you on. So don't miss out on the learning and gaining that knowledge, right? Okay, and you can just go through this. So it talks about becoming an enrolled agent and all. And as you scroll down, you will see the exam content outlines here. Is this visible? Exam content outlines here. Review exam content outlines. You will see this, and there are you see it, for 3 parts: part 1, part 2, and then part 3. So I just opened up part 1. Okay. Now, IRS Special Enrollment Examination Part 1, I think I told you time and again, it is about individual taxation, okay. Now, what do we study in this? Okay, let's go over this. As I said, there are some 85 questions. Of course, the paper is for 100 questions, but only 85 questions will be valued. The preliminary work and taxpayer data, 17 questions, okay. You may want to make a note of this, or probably somebody can share the links of each of this in the comment section here, please, for part 1, part 2, and part 3. Somebody can share it for me. So preliminary work to prepare tax returns. Okay, so what do we study in this? Use of prior year's returns for comparison accuracy and carryovers of current year tax return. Then taxpayers biographical information. Individual tax, you will be studying mainly about 1040 and then 1040 NR and 1040X, 3 returns. And the best part about EA at iLead Tax Academy is that we not just offer you the license training, but we also offer you real-time tax training, okay. So that is something you may want to leverage. Then residency status, will you be treated as a citizen, resident? How are green card holders treated? Who is a resident alien? Who is a non-resident alien? And then we talk about the filing requirements. Who is supposed to file the tax return? Today we all know, or we have somebody whom we know in the US, right? We all know someone in the US, or we all have someone whom we know in the US, right? So when should they file their tax return, given the current COVID and other situation? Then the taxpayer filing status, then sources of all worldwide taxable and non-taxable income. Now people are streaming this, given the current pandemic, they are exploring new opportunities, right? I remember this dialogue, from Super 30, आपत्ति में आविष्कार पैदा होता है, right? Uber, WhatsApp, they were all born out in crisis, right? The famine times, but they ruled the industry. So we never know, so in case the taxpayer has worldwide income, so this is something that he may want to. So how do we treat the income that the taxpayer earns from interest, wages, business, sale of property, dividends, rental income, flow through entities, alimony received, any payments that you get in the event of divorce, that's called alimony. And then flow through entities, pass through entities. So here we talk a little bit about pass through entities. I say SPL, right? Special SPL. What is that? S corporation, partnership, and then limited liability company with multiple members. Okay, and then sources of applicable exclusions and adjustments to gross income. Okay, adjustments here at iLead we teach from a practical perspective. Okay, so I tell my students that we should focus on A, B, C, D, E. What is that? A, B, C, D, E. Okay, adjustments, benefits, credits, deductions, exemptions, exclusion. These are the things that will reduce the tax burden, tax liability for a client. So this is something that you and I must not miss out if we want to benefit our client. Okay. Sources of applicable exclusions and adjustments to gross income. So here we talk about foreign earned income exclusions. So people who are working in Big Four, you know how important Form 2555 and Form 1116R, okay, foreign earned income exclusion and then foreign tax credit. Then retirement plans talks about IRA, right, 401k, then HSA, health savings account, and then alimony paid. How is the alimony paid, taxable or deductible? Then health insurance.
I didn't get that.
Okay, it was not you, Siri. Shut up. Then health insurance and then self-employment tax. What's the tax treatment? Then source of applicable deduction. Yeah, is that a standard return and itemized deduction? Ever since the TCJA, the Tax Cuts Jobs Act, has come into picture, we know that the itemized deductions are nowhere, right? So it's almost like it doesn't exist at all, right? So given that, so how do we benefit our client? So can we just say that it's just going to be the standard return and there are no benefits to our client? So at iLead, we tell you what are the different opportunities that the client can also explore, what you can advise the client. Even if it is a standard return, what are the different things that we can advise to the client, okay? Next. Now sources of, next one is qualification for dependency. Who can be treated as a dependent? Okay, is spouse your dependent? Now, who can be treated as a dependent? That is something you may want to look into. A qualifying child, qualifying relative, right? Is spouse your dependent? So you will learn all that here. Then sources of applicable credits. Education credit. So if you are spending some money on education, you get about that. Then foreign tax credit, retirement credit, child and dependent care, and then credit for other dependents. Okay, if you have your parents or in-laws or you are supporting somebody else also, even that you can take care. Then sources of tax payments and refundable credits. I told you A, B, C, D, E, C is the credit. Okay, withholding, estimated payments, earned income tax credit. Now estimated payments also, if the taxpayer is in business, okay, he needs to pay estimated taxes. Now just like how we have advanced tax payments here, similarly in US you have estimated tax payments. So what are the intervals? What are the time intervals when you will be paying these estimated taxes? That is something you will be learning here. Okay. So in other words, this is also a planning opportunity, that you should visit, how you can benefit your clients. So I think my team can benefit from this. The LLC team. Okay. Then previous IRS correspondence with the taxpayer. Okay. So did IRS send him any notice, or is there anything that he paid in excess? Because what happens sometimes is, or many a times is, in case you are getting a refund from the IRS, then you can adjust it against the current year taxes also. You have even that benefit. Like the 2019 refund can be adjusted against the 2020 tax due payments. Okay. Then additional required returns filed and taxes paid. Okay, what is this? Employment taxes, gift tax, international information returns, and other information returns. So people who have worked in US tax industry just on a regular 1040 or a 1040NR, maybe you have never got an opportunity to talk also about what a gift tax is or what an estate tax is. Okay, but here in part 1 you will get to know about that too. Then special filing requirements. Foreign income, again, how do you, treat the foreign income? And then presidentially declared disaster areas. Now, with so many calamities happening, right? Can you claim the casualty losses? Can the client claim the casualty losses? So that is something that you can advise the client, okay? Because only a federally declared disaster area, right, is where you can claim it. And then Form 1040NR. So residents, they will be filing 1040. But a non-resident, they will be filing Form 1040NR. Okay. So if you have somebody who is new and is watching this, and this is Greek and Latin to you, remember that it was Greek and Latin to me also, and French also. Greek, Latin, French, whatever language you call. Okay. It was the same to me. Every master was amateur at some point of time, right? Now next, foreign account and then asset reporting, FBAR and then Form 8938, right? So people who have worked in the US tax industry, you know this, right? FBAR, foreign bank accounting report. If you had more than $10,000 outside of USA, the client has to file, right? Applicable for citizens or residents. And then Form 8938, it ranges from 50,000 to 75,000 and then 150,000, of course, if the couple is married. they have that amount outside of USA, then they are required to file that form. Okay. And then minor child's unearned income. I think I made a video on this. How is the income of the kids taxed in our iLead Tax LLC? That you may want to check out if you have never got an opportunity to work or explore, how the income of kids are taxed. Then ACA requirements, health insurance coverage, total household income, advance premium tax credit. I mean, having a health insurance is very, very important in the United States, right? So in case you don't have it, you may be penalized also. Okay, so this is just the part one. So maybe now if you are somebody who has worked in US tax industry for a season or something, you got to question yourself, of these 17 questions in this, just in this section 1, how much of this have you learnt? Okay, so that's something you may want to check it. And then section 2, income and assets. Income and assets. Okay, so here we talk about taxability of wages. Now here, this is very important. Okay, 21 questions come out of here. 21 questions come from this section. Okay, now taxability of wages, salaries and other earnings, that's earned income, statutory employee tips and all. I mean, complete, we explored W2, all 20 boxes. So maybe if you are learning part 1, maybe if you are looking for opportunities in payroll taxes also, this may ease your understanding in the payroll taxes too. Okay, then interest income, what is taxable, what is non-taxable, interest income, and then dividend income, how are the dividend incomes taxed, and then how is income from mutual funds, and then corporations and other entities, how are they taxed, then qualified dividends, how are they taxed, because ordinary dividends, they are taxed at ordinary rates, qualified dividends are taxed at special rates. Then rental income and expenses, because given the current pandemic, people are exploring investment in the real estate, and also how they can move their real estate into business, their home, the business use of home and all. Okay, so that's something also you will be learning here. Okay, and then depreciation, how is depreciation calculated, how is income from vacation homes or rental property calculated, that is also discussed here. Then gambling income, so W2G, so people who are in speculation business, right? So if you have any winnings from lottery and all, how are they taxed, that is something you will be learning here. And then tax treatment of forgiveness of debt, 1099C. Hey, if you are an experienced person watching this, you must be knowing, how much of this your people really know. Form 1099C, cancellation of debt, even that is cancelled, even that is taxable, right? It may be honored in the sight of God, but not in the sight of Uncle Sam, right? He will tax you for that cancellation of debt also. Then tax treatment of US citizen or resident with foreign income, I think I told you that. Form 2555, Form 3520 and then Form 5471. Though they talk about this, Form 3520 and 2471 are not tested that extensively, but still, we just give some coverage about it. And then other income, scholarships, barter income, hobby income, alimony, non-taxable combat pay, unearned income, taxable recoveries, net operating losses. Given the current pandemic, there are so many businesses which are going into losses, right? Net operating losses. So that is something you may want to learn about, how you can claim the losses and all. And then virtual currency, the bitcoins and all, right? Then the constructive receipt of income, if your income is received in any other form or if it's received by any other person, is that still taxable? Yes. Then constructive dividends, payments of personal expenses from a business entity. Yes, many of the expenses, are now covered from their business account. And clients also, many clients, they use their personal account and business account very interchangeably for personal and business expenses. That financial discipline is something that you can impart if you become an enrolled agent and start advising them. Then passive income and loss, then pass-through entities, I think I told you, you got to issue Schedule K1. So this pass-through entity taxes itself, is a separate unit in most of the companies. The business tax segment itself is a separate unit, so that's something you may want to explore. Then royalties and related expenses, then how is the income tax refund, state, local or income tax refund, how is the refund calculated, how are they taxable, right? And then 1099 miscellaneous reporting. Employee will get W2, contractor will get 1099 miscellaneous. Then retirement income. What is this? Basis in a traditional IRA. What is traditional IRA? Okay, two types of IRA, very famous, right? Traditional IRA and then Roth IRA. Now, Form 8606 is for non-deductible IRA, which means you make contribution into IRA, but they're not deductible because of your high income limits and all, right? And then comparison of and distributions from traditional and Roth IRA. How are the distributions from traditional and Roth IRA taxable? Then distributions from qualified and non-qualified plans, pre-tax, after tax, rollovers, okay, for 1099R and all, right? 401k is a pre-tax contribution. IRA is a post-tax contribution. If you're working in the US tax industry, you need to know the difference between a pre-tax and a post-tax contribution. Even the cafeteria plans, right? They are pre-tax contributions. Now, next, excess contributions and tax treatment. Sometimes client may have more money. He may be thinking that, okay, let me contribute more, but are they deductible? He may also be penalized. He will be, right? Next, prohibited transactions and tax effect. What are the transactions that are prohibited from an IRA, right? If they form a self-directed IRA or an IRA per se, right? There are certain transactions which are prohibited, which the client is not aware of. Maybe the custodian, the banker must have told him all, but chances are that may skip his mind, right? Then IRA conversions and recharacterization. What do you mean by recharacterization? Okay, you invested into a Roth IRA, now you want to make it a traditional IRA. That must be done within the due date, right? Next, required minimum distributions and excess accumulations. I mean, once you reach a particular age, you got to start taking the distributions from your IRA. So that is something it talks about. Then loans from Internal Revenue Code, Section 401k plans and other qualified plans. Now, given the current pandemic, people are withdrawing money from 401k, right? Retirement plans, right? Now, how is that taxed? That is something that you learn here. And taxability of Social Security and railroad retirement benefits. Social Security benefits are important. How are they taxed, right? Those calculations our students enjoy, right? Then taxability of net unrealized appreciation, then tax implications for inherited retirement accounts, foreign pensions, and then retirement income. Then comes property, real and personal. Again, given the current crisis, many they are disposing of the property, whether in US or in India. The money is going from India to US, US to India. What are the tax implications? Of course, that is not part of the examination, but here at iLead, we cover even those aspects. Okay, sale or disposition of property, including depreciation, recapture, loss, and 1099. Capital gains and losses. What is short term? What is long term? What is mark to market? And then basis of assets. How are the basis of assets calculated? So at iLead, we speak about 8 different situations how a basis is calculated. Then publicly traded partnerships. Sale of personal residence. So normally, you have this exclusion. So you can take exclusion of 250,000 if you are MFS or 500,000 if you are married. I mean, single 250,000, married couple they can go for a 500,000 exclusion if they have used, they satisfy the use test and the ownership test. So then installment sales. Using the gross profit percentage method, how do you calculate that? That is something that's shown. And then options, stock options. How are the stock options treated, right? Commodity, and then ISO, ESPP, how are they treated? And then like kind exchange, you exchange an asset for another asset, right? Then how is that calculated? And then comes non-business bad debts. Non-business bad debts, hand loans, right? Cash loans, investor versus trader, what's the difference? Then adjustments to income, self-employment tax, SE taxes, right? 1/2 of the SE taxes are allowed as deduction, the self-employment taxes. And then retirement contribution limits and deductibility. How much of contribution can you make to individual retirement account, IRA, health savings account? You have self coverage, you have family coverage. All these are planning opportunities, people. Okay, other adjustments to income. Okay, student loan interest, students going from here to there on F1 visa, right? Alimony. Even that qualifies for deduction. And then self-employed health insurance, right? Self-employed person taking health insurance. So this covers 2. And then third one is deductions. And credits. 21 questions. Itemized deductions. Okay, in this medical, I mean that's favorite for most of them. Itemized deductions are favorite. Okay, Schedule A. And then medical and dental expenses. And then various taxes. State income, personal property, real estate, and then interest expense, mortgage interest, investment interest, tracing rules, points, indebtedness limitations, and all. Home mortgage interest deduction is referring to then charitable contributions. You can make cash contributions, charity. Given this current situation, many people have made contributions. You may be one of them, right? In some way or the other, even donating the food packets, I would say. Cash, non-cash, then 60% versus 30%, and then documentation. What are the documentation that you need to compile, right? And then non-business casualty and theft losses in presidentially declared disaster areas. Only those can be claimed. And what are some miscellaneous itemized deductions? Then what are the itemized deductions? See, generally for a 1040 NR, standard deduction is not allowed. You see a form 1040 NR, there is no standard deduction there. But there is a way how you can claim standard deduction on a non-resident tax return. Okay, and not all itemized deductions are allowed for non-residents. Only certain itemized deductions are allowed. And what is that? Also, we will be learning it. And then 3.2 talks about tax credits, different types of credit, right? Child and dependent care credit, child tax credit, and credit for other dependents. Then education credits. You're spending money on education for your family, you can claim that. Child and dependent care credit, I mean, you're putting the baby in a creche or a daycare so that you both, wife and husband, can work, then there are certain credits. Then foreign tax credit, if you have elders, you get a credit for those other dependents also. Child tax credit, for every child who is born in US and who has an SSN, he qualifies for that $2,000 flat credit. And in case you are lucky, the credit is also refundable if you have less taxes. Next, earned income tax credit. Somebody who falls into lower income tax brackets, he gets earned income tax credit. Retirement contribution credit. I mean, somebody's income is low, still they are investing into retirement, they get the credit, right? And then adoption credit. Adopting somebody during these turbulent times, right? You get adoption credit. Adoption credits are whopping numbers, I tell you. Next, net premium tax credit, and then any other health coverage credit or general business credit. Okay, so that covers section 3. And then we go to section 4. Many love to be advisory role, right? Taxation and advice. Okay, so what do you advise a client when AMT is applicable? What if he has paid AMT in any of the prior year? Is there a way you can do something about it? Yes, you can claim it as minimum tax credit, right? Then penalties and exceptions on premature distribution. Now, that 10% additional tax that applies, can you avoid it? Yes, there are exceptions to it. When the client makes, a premature or a early withdrawal, certain things are applicable. Then household employees. In fact, now they are letting go, the household employees and doing everything by themselves. But in case they still have household employees like us, then you must be paying, household employment taxes also, right? Schedule H. Then underpayment penalties and interest. So if you don't pay the estimated taxes on time, then there are penalties that are applicable. Estimated tax penalty. Then conditions for filing a claim for refund. Amended returns. Okay, you missed out something. You became an enrolled agent. Then you realized, okay, client missed out this A, B, C, D, E. What is that? Adjustment, benefit, credit, deduction, and then exemption. Okay, client missed this out. Okay, what do? Can he go back and correct it? Yes. Just in life, there is no backspace, but in IRS, there is a backspace. Go back 3 years and amend your tax return. Then self-employment taxes. Yeah, if you are in business, independent contractor, or you have a disregarded entity, you will be subject to self-employment taxes. Then excess social security taxes. If excess social security taxes are withheld, that is something you can claim. 1/2 of this is claimed. Then tax provisions for members of the clergy. So in case somebody is a pastor or somebody into this church, so there are certain deductions, special rules for them also. Then income in respect of a decedent. Death and taxes are inevitable, they say, right? So even if somebody is no more, still the taxes have to be paid more. Then healthcare, because what happens, income tax and also the state tax may apply, gift tax may also apply. The final tax return comes into picture, right? You should write that deceased on the top. Then healthcare, individual responsibility payment, then net investment income tax, then additional Medicare tax, uncollected social security and Medicare tax, other taxes. Okay, this is a first-time home buyer repayment credit, which was there in 2007, 8, something like that, and it was a 15-year credit, which needs to be paid back every year, $500. So many are not aware of this. So if you are working with a very old client who has been in US for more than, since the last recession, so he may be having this. So this is something you must not miss asking your client. It's a planning opportunity. And then advising the individual taxpayer. What are the reporting obligations for the individuals? What are the reporting obligations for the individuals, right? And should they file a 1040? Should they file a 1040 NR? Can they file a 1040X? Right. For some year that they are referring to now, can they do a FBAR or a FATCA, or should they do both? Or filing one, does it exempt the other one, right? All these reporting obligations. And then property sales. Property sales, sale of property, how is that taxable? Then education planning. Here you have American Opportunity Tax Credit, and you have lifetime learning credit also. Then you have Section 529 plan, right? I think we gave a wonderful comparison here of Section 529 plan, right? In the class notes, I think we compared that with college savings plan also, right? So I think that was good. Then estate planning. You have gifts, trusts, family partnership, charitable giving, living trust, life insurance, and retirement planning about IRAs. What happens when you make an early withdrawal and all. And then marriage and divorce. In those cases, how do you handle the taxes? More than handling the taxes, how do you handle the clients? That's very important in those situations. So in our conversation, in our training, we also tell you a little bit of how to talk to clients. Then items that will affect your future or past returns, carryovers, net operating loss, Schedule D, capital gains, right? Form 8801, then negative qualified business income carryover, injured spouse relief, then innocent spouse relief, that's something unique. Then estimated tax and penalty avoidance, even injured spouse relief. I think for people who are doing EA, I think you should just watch this line by line and mujhe ye pata hai. I think that's a wonderful way of revising the topic, and something is not there, I think you can just go back to your material and then refer that. Okay, and few more on Section 4, adjustments, deduction and credit for tax planning, timing of income and expenses. Say especially in case of sale of home or exercise of stock options, the timing is something that is very, very important, right? So there are certain many situations when we talk about timelines. So that's important. The character of transaction, use of capital gain rates versus ordinary income tax rates, especially in Section 1231, 1245, 1250 property. We talk about the recharacterization, recapture of depreciation. Okay. How much of it is taxable as ordinary income, how much of the other one is taxable as capital gains, right? So there is a division that happens. Then advantages and disadvantages of MFJ or MFS, HOH filing status in various scenarios. Now, one of the things that you will love at iLead Tax Academy is whatever you are learning, you can practice it. You can practice it if you are somebody who have signed up for real-time tax return preparation also, and there again you have electives whether to go for individual taxes or for business taxes also. Okay, so when you are doing it, you will be able to evaluate, oh, okay, I see a taxpayer wherein both are working, husband and wife both are working. Now, should they go for a joint filing or should they go for a separate filing? So that is something you can explore as you are putting your hands on the tax software. And our team will do their very best. Okay, then because we give attention to details, attention to details, because taxes are something in life, don't give attention to details, but in taxes you certainly got to give attention to details so that we benefit the client. Okay, and finally the last section, 12 questions only. Here we talk about estate tax. How are the estate tax? And estate tax as good as high as 40%. Okay, now what is that? Most of them, they don't even know about estate tax. And if you ask me, I think the longest tax return is the estate tax return. So you may want to just Google and then see the estate tax return form 1041, and then 706, form 706. For trust it is 1041, for estate it is form 706. So estate tax is something you will be learning about. How do we calculate the gross estate value? What is unified credits? What is income in respect of a decedent? Like how is it calculated? Okay, and then gift tax, that $15,000 limit, right? How is that done, and how that 11 plus million, 11.48 or something like that for 2019. So how is that exclusion calculated? And international information reporting, the FBR, again the same thing, FBR, FATCA, 5471 and all this. And then Coverdell savings account, that is something I read it as covered accounts, but Coverdell savings account is something, I think I gave the comparison between 529 plan and a Coverdell savings account. So that is something you will learn. And then what are the penalties? Failure to file, under-reporting of income, or substantially incomplete returns, because many people, let me rephrase it, they choose some tax preparers who do not have complete knowledge, or who are driven by price and not value. What is that? Driven by price and not value. There is a difference, driven by price and driven by value. You should have value for money, not value for price. You agree with me? You should have value for money, not value for price. Okay. So they end up filing with some tax preparer and they may get notice. So in that case, somebody like you who is an enrolled agent, he can guide him better, right? Because he knows what are the penalties for failure to file, failure to pay. What happens when you underreport your income? What happens when you submit an incomplete tax return? And it's like gross negligence. Then statute of limitations, what is the timeline by which you should file certain things. Then reduction of tax attributes, a difference between FBAR and FATCA, and then guilty tax. I mean, if you have ownership in a foreign corporation, okay. And then international voluntary disclosure options, okay. So this is a complete view of part 1, people, okay. I think our team member Dikshit has shared this. Thank you, Dikshit, for sharing this, and also Alex, thank you very much for sharing this here. Thank you, Deepti, for sharing the link also. Yeah, I think some of them have shared it already. Okay, so please go through those links. So this is about part 1. This is about part 1, okay. Paper 1 on individual taxes. So let's take a look at paper 2, okay. Part 2, business taxes. So many job openings, okay. You can just go to LinkedIn and check for yourself. I mean, people need now, I always say this, whenever there is scarcity, quality dominates. Tell me, repeat after me. Whenever there is scarcity, quality dominates, right? EA is quality. EA is certainly quality, right? Forget comparing it with other courses and all. All that EA knows is taxation, US taxation, that's all. So just rejoice in that. And if you are somebody, rather than exploring ये course अच्छा है, वो course अच्छा है, इससे वो कैसे बेहतर है, instead of comparing with any other course, just know that this is something that is very rewarding. Go to payscale.com. I think I have done all that last time also. In that video, that 7 things video, to become an enrolled agent, you will see all that statistics that I have presented there. Go to Payscale, go to Glassdoor, check for yourself how the US tax people make money, right? From tax analyst to tax director, you can check that for yourself. Okay, part 2, here we talk about business taxes and 5 important taxes, 5 people, 5 types of taxpayers. Independent contractor, a self-employed person, then LLC, partnerships, S Corp, C Corp. 5. Mukka. Very important for business tax, and we learn that in detail here at iLead. Now business entities. Now here there are only 3 sections here. So as you see, only 3 pages. So business entities, there will be 28 questions. Okay. There will be 28 questions here. Sole proprietors. Partnerships and qualified joint venture. Corporations, S corporations, farmers, LLCs, tax exempt entities and associations, right? All this, even the farmers taxation, okay? Then different type of entity classification, because many a times client might have asked you, hey, I want to start a business, and then he may ask you, should I form a LLC or S Corp or C Corp? He may not know whether he qualifies for certain things or not. So you must be somebody who should educate the client. Then just like how we have PAN here, similarly we have SSN, ITIN and EIN there. So if you are an employee, you may have SSN, you will have SSN actually. If you are an employer, you will have EIN, Employer Identification Number. Now, how is that applied? So that is something we will be teaching you. Then what is the difference between accounting period and accounting methods? Now, an Indian in the USA, should he be following the Indian financial year right from April 1st to March 31st, or should he be following the calendar year there, Jan 1st to December 31st? Accounting methods, cash method, accrual method. Then reporting requirements. I mean, when should you file your W2, W4 for the withholdings, and then Form 1099. Then hobby versus business. How is it done? Then partnership. How is the partnership income taxable? Because partnership is also again a flow-through entity. Okay, it's a pass-through entity. Partnership will issue Schedule K1 to its partners. Now, how is that taxed, right? Family partnership. So, if husband and wife are in partnership and they make a qualified joint venture election, so what happens then? Because in that case, they will be separately responsible. Both will be having their own Schedule C and not Schedule K1s, right? Then partner dealing with partnership, contribution of property to partnership, because when you begin a business, each partner will bring in what he has. Some may have cash, so they may bring in cash. Some may have property, they may bring in their property. Some may have their own skill set, talent, they may bring in that into business, right? Then basis of partner's interest, how is the capital account calculated here? And then disposition of partner's interest, so somebody wants to retire. So what happens then? And then partnership formation. How do you form a partnership? How do you form a business? What are the things that you need to keep in mind when you want to start a business in the United States, right? So that is something you may want to check upon. Then dissolution of partnership. Nahi ho raha bhai, dukaan band karna hai. So what happens? How is the tax treatment then? Okay, then filing requirements, the due dates, penalties. Now this is something very important, okay, especially in a partnership and S corporation and all, you don't file the tax return, the failure to file penalty will be $200 plus, maybe some $205 or something, multiplied by the number of months you delayed, multiplied by the number of partners. So remember that. Then services rendered in return for partnership interest, okay? And what happens when the partnership is discharging the debt of the partner? What happens when the partner is discharging the debt of the partnership? How is that capital gains and all treated, right? And then corporations in general, filing requirements. Corporations, by default, when somebody is using the term corporation, it means C corporations, unless they explicitly state as S corporation, it is by default C corporation, okay? Corporations in general, so filing requirements, due dates and penalties, right? And then earnings and profits, shareholder dividends, then special deductions, liquidations, accumulated earnings tax. This is a crap, I say, There's 20% tax you get on accumulated earnings tax. There are certain limits. Then estimated tax payments, and then other international reporting requirements. Then how do you form a corporation? As per the Internal Revenue Code, right? And then what happens when you transfer money or property to get the stock? Then what happens when you transfer property which is subject to some liability into the business, right? And what are closely held corporations, what are controlled groups, then what are S corporations? So S corporation is something that's only for US citizens, not for US residents, not for US resident aliens, only for US citizens, okay? Then requirements to qualify, then election procedure, then income, expenses and separately stated items, treatment of distribution, then how is the basis of shareholder calculated, okay? What happens when you take or give loan to an S corporation? What is the tax treatment about that, okay? And how do you revoke? S corporation is an election, okay? So people who are in tax industry, you will know that it's an election and we file form 2553, right? Now what happens if you don't want an S corp status, because in S corp what happens, you are restricted only to 100 members, only single class of stock, right? Only for US citizens and all. So in case you want to revoke that, again you cannot come back until 5 years, that. But still, what is the process, right? And what happens when there's a discharge of debt by the S corporation and then non-cash distributions, right? Distributions when there are no earnings and profits. Distributions when there are earnings and profit. Today only we spoke about that in our class in S corporation. Then business financial information, business income, right? Anything that comes into business, right? Anything that comes into business. Gross receipts and other income. Cost of goods sold. Net income, net operating losses, gain or loss on disposition of depreciable property, cancellation of business debt. I told you, cancellation of business debt, God may be gracious, but IRS will not be generous upon that fellow whom you cancelled your debt. Even that will be included in his income and he is required to pay the tax. At least the tax is not cancelled, only the debt is cancelled. Then business expenses, deductions and credit. Officers and employees compensation, then business rental deduction, depreciation, amortization and depletion. I call this as DAD. What is that? DAD. Depreciation, amortization and then depletion. So what is the treatment of that? DAD, right? Then business bad debts, business travel, meals and gift expenses, interest expense. So this week, we will be learning this in our current session. Insurance expense, then taxes, employment taxes, payroll taxes, right? Then federal excise tax, then casualty thefts and condemnation, and then QBI, qualified business income deduction. You see QBID even in part 1, QBID, qualified business income deduction. Then eligibility and deductibility of general business credits. Net operating loss deduction, then home office. Somebody was asking me, should I study all parts or should I study one by one? I would study all the parts. It's just 100 hours or maybe, max 120 or something like that. So just study all the parts together. You have examination in November. Just start studying everything, because when you study all the part, what happens, you get a complete picture of how the taxation is. And then all that you have to do is just start working on those MCQs. Some 2000 plus MCQs for 3 parts. And part 3 has only 500 plus MCQs something. So roughly 1000 you can say in part 1 and part 2, 500 MCQs in part 3. So that shouldn't be a great deal for you, isn't it? Right? So net operating loss deduction and then business assets. What do you do with the assets that are in the business, right? How do you claim the depreciation and all those things? How are they reported and all? Now, what is the basis of that assets? How did you acquire that asset? I told you that there are 8 situations, right? How do you compute the basis? What happens when you dispose of a depreciable property? What is the tax treatment when you dispose of a depreciable property? And then like-kind exchange. When you're exchanging one property for another. Okay, I give you this printing machine. You give me, that coffee making machine or something like that. Then converted property, capitalization. Okay, you're making some capital improvements to the building. What happens? How is that treatment given? Okay. And then analysis of financial records. How do you analyze the income statement? Okay. We learn here about Schedule L, Schedule M1, Schedule M2, Schedule M3, Schedule J. There are so many schedules that we learn here. Schedule O, right? Then what are the methods of accounting that we follow? What is it that we need to do for change of accounting method? Then for change of accounting period. What is that? Change of accounting method. Client wants to switch from cash to accrual. Okay. Change of accounting period. Client wants to shift from Indian calendar year to US calendar year or vice versa. Right? then depreciation, pass-through activity, and then reconciliation of tax. People in the commerce must be knowing, reconciliation of cash book with pass book, right? So similarly here also reconciliation of book profits with, the tax profits as per the profits in the tax return. That reconciliation must be made. And then if there's any related party transaction, like same partner, or the spouse or somebody who is a related party, what is the tax treatment of the related party transaction? Then loan to or from owners, same. Then advising a business taxpayer, like what are the filing obligations, what are the due dates, what are the penalties, what are the international information returns like 5471, 5472 that needs to be filed, then deposit obligations, then reporting obligations like Form 1099 series, when should you be filing, right? 1099 miscellaneous and all, then 1096 when you have to file Schedule K1, Schedule K, then record keeping, what records you must keep, including that mileage logbook for accounting plan, then related party transaction, selection of business entity, benefits and detriments. This is something that you must advise the clients, right? If they want to start a business, which type of entity is important for them. Google doesn't give them complete answer. It may give a piece of it, and certain information may be outdated, but an enrolled agent will be able to tell you what is relevant, what is the current one. Then personal usage of business accounts, separation of business and personal accounts. I just told you, many people, they mingle both. Then advice on accounting methods and procedures, then transfer elections in or out of business, contributed property distribution and all, then life cycle of the business, what happens in formation, what are the steps that we need to take, what is it that we need to do in case of dissolution and all, how is the distribution and all made. That is something you may want to check. Then different types of industry. You may get a salon client, you may get a restaurant client, you may get a Uber driver, right? How do you advise them? Then worker classification. Should a person be on 1099 or should they be on W2? What is the best way? Then deductions and credits for tax planning. Timing of income and expenses, NOL, the same thing again, okay? So this is about section 2. Then section 3, the last one, has 18 questions, specialized returns and taxpayers, trust and estate income tax. So the different types of trust which are there: simple trust, complex trust, grantor trust, irrevocable trust, then distributable net income and accounting income, exclusion, fraudulent trust, income in respect of a decedent, right? What is that income he might have earned if he was here, okay, if he was alive. Then separately stated items, then filing requirements, tax years, and then penalties. Filing requirements, tax years, and then penalties. Exempt organizations, like people with generous heart, they want to do something good to the society. Now, how is it that they can do it much better, right? Form an organization, form an exempt organization. Our team at iTax LLC will also help you if you are looking for any such service here. Okay, Devendra, you are asking some planning questions. So Academy is not the place where I can give you planning consultation. So this is something only for EA. If you need consultation on the planning, I think you should contact our iTax LLC. Just go to iletax.com. What is that? iletax.com and just chat or just call our office 530 Hi Eileen. On the planning questions that you are asking, you will get a free consultation, okay? So this is not a forum where we discuss about planning opportunities. We are discussing on what we cover in the enrolled agent license examination, okay? That's about exempt organization. And what form do you file here? Of course, for the tax exempt status, form 1023, 1024 needs to be filed, and the filing requirements, you have form 990 series, form 990N, form 990T, I mean different series are there. And what happens, when you are spending the money that is coming into exempt organization for non-trust purposes, non-charitable or non-exempt organization purposes. Now what happens? What are the tax implications of that, right? Next, retirement plans, employer and employee contribution, 401k, 401k, right? Then reporting requirements, then plan for self-employed persons, simplified employee pension, then savings incentive match plan for employees, prohibited transactions, qualified and non-qualified plans. You will love this, okay? If we are going so detailed in just explaining the contents, so you must know how much detailed we will go into teaching you on the curriculum, right? Then farmers, the farm income, farm inventory depreciation, the various disaster area provisions. Are we done? Okay, and disposition of farm assets, farm income. Okay, farmers taxation, it will be a very small topic. Okay, schedule F. So this is on part 2, guys. Okay, only 3 sections but 85 questions. Okay, but it gives you enormous confidence when you clear part 2, because many, they feel individual tax is easy, but if you ask me, I feel business tax is much easier to crack. The pass rate also is now, from the last 2 years, it is higher in case of business tax. So in my opinion, I would say, business tax is easier than individual taxes, because they don't ask you that tough questions also. And last one, let's take a look at this, representation practices and procedures, part 3. Okay, same here also you have 85 questions. Okay, part 1 is about individuals, part 2 is about businesses, and then part 3 is about representations. Okay, now see, when it comes to part 3, circular 230 is the Bible. Bible, Bhagavad Gita, Quran for CPS, attorneys, and then enrolled agents, right? Practices and procedures. So practice before the IRS. What is practice before the IRS? What is the definition of practice? What do you mean by that? Then what are the different types of individuals who may practice, and what is the scope of their practice? Then who can be an enrolled agent, right? Requirements for enrolled agent. What is the information that you need to, even after passing the examination, you need to file that form 23 and all with the IRS. So that also iLead Tax Academy helps you. Omission or error on tax return. Now how do you correct that? Then rules for employing or accepting assistance from former IRS employees. So somebody who has been with IRS for more than 5 years also, they qualify to be enrolled agents, or somebody who has passed all the 3 parts of the examination also will become enrolled agent. Okay. Then rules for restriction on advertising, solicitation and fee information. This is something. Fee rules, you cannot charge clients on a percentage basis. That is something you must be avoiding. Then due diligence, conflict of interest, to competitors tax returns, you are the tax preparer. Now how do you handle that, right? Then rules for refund check, you cannot encash a client's refund check. Then standards for return advice, covered opinion, tax return provisions, preparing returns, continuing education requirements. Even after completing your EA, you must still be subject to continuous professional education. So that is something, continuous learning, that will be there. Okay, so what are the requirements? Then tax shelters, what is the enrollment cycle, how often should you renew your enrolled agent license? Now the PTIN also, right? For last 2-3 years, I think there was no PTIN fees. Now they have come back with the PTIN fees, some $21 or something. Then rules for prompt disposition of matters before the IRS. Then rules for returning a client's records and documents. Can you retain the client's records if he has not paid the fees, right? And then PTIN requirements, I think I told you, just like how you have SSN, ITIN, EIN, similarly you have PTIN. If you are a preparer, you will have a tax identification number. That is called preparer tax identification number. Yeah. And circular 230, you may want to read it on your own, and you compare our notes also. Circular 230, I bet you will find our notes more easier than reading circular 230 on your own. Then sanctionable acts. Now sanctionable acts, don't take it as positively, so it is not something that we can rejoice in, right? So this is like a strong censure notice or condemnation from the IRS for something, some disreputable conduct that may result in a disciplinary proceeding from the IRS. Okay, so that's about sanctionable acts. And then comes, okay, just okay. So we are on section 3, okay, part 3. We are on section 1. Only 3 sections are there, I guess. Then sanctions imposed by the Office of Professional Responsibility. So if you see our T-Day sessions also, we make sure that we cover part 3. 1 week we do part 1, 1 week we do part 2. But part 3 is covered in both the T-Day tax session questions. Then frivolous submission and then fraudulent taxation. Right? Rules and penalties. Assessment and appeal procedures. How do you make an appeal? You don't agree to some claim or protest by the IRS. Okay, what can you do? Can you make an appeal? Yes, you can. How you can? Learn in part 3, right? Then types of penalties. Negligence, substantially understating or substantially overvaluing the certain items, or failure to furnish a copy of return to taxpayer. You filed his return, but you have not taken his confirmation, nor have you given him the copy of tax return. So all those things are not good for you. Signing returns and furnishing identifying numbers and keeping copies or list of returns. So if you have signed a tax return, you have to keep a list of returns that you have prepared, right? Then employees engaged or employed during a return period, then prepare a due diligence and penalties. There are penalties for preparer also, boy, right? So you should not forget that. Then representation before the IRS. 24 questions, okay. So this one had how many questions? 25 questions, okay. And here we have 24 questions, right? That's in section 2. Where's that? Representation before the IRS. Representation is a wonderful thing, right? You stand for the client. True friends, they stand for their friends in times of trouble. So representation is something that shows your relationship with the client, that he gets a notice, do you stand for him or not? Most of the online portals, they don't. Only the one who is operating throughout the year will stand for his client, and only clients will testify this. So let me talk less about this. Purpose of power of attorney. You know the power of attorney, right? Then who can sign the power of attorney? Then authority. What is the scope of authority that is granted by the taxpayer? Are there any limitations on signing the tax return? And proper completion of power of attorney, form 2848. That's the form where you get the power of attorney. Then any other forms, client privacy, consent to disclose and all. Then the difference between a power of attorney and a tax information authorization. Power of attorney is greater. Tax information authorization is like you're just giving a piece of the tax information. Next. Then comes requirements to be met when changing or dropping representatives or withdrawal of representative. Then purpose of a centralized authorization file, CAF number. Then conference and then practice requirements. Building the taxpayer's case, identification of tax issues with supporting details, right? Potential for criminal aspects, then competence, expertise, and time to handle issue, then conflict of interest, transcripts from the IRS. I mean, transcript from the IRS, it's not a complete copy of tax return, but just a transcript of it. Just a transcript of it, right? Then, taxpayer's financial situation. Client is not able to make the entire payment at one go. So, is there a way that he can pay in installments? Yes, you have installment agreements that you can sign up with the IRS. And then offer in compromise, okay. Settlement. The long pending cases. Is there something that we can ask for a waiver? Yes, you can ask for a waiver, okay. And then general financial health, lawsuits, garnishments, okay, and all this third party research. Discharge of the tax liability in case of bankruptcy. Now, client is declared bankrupt. Now, what happens? How does he discharge his tax liability? Then, supporting documentation. What are the different documents that the IRS may be checking in? You say, the client says that he has invested into, certain avenues. Now, what is the proof for that? What is the proof for that? Okay, these are the proof for that. Cancelled checks, equivalent, bank statements, then credit card statements, receipts, brokerage records, and all, right? Then comes, the credit card statement, bank statement, that's common sense, right? All these things. Then legal documents, birth certificate, divorce decrees, lawsuit settlements. Because in case, you're claiming alimony, this is something, that they may ask for. In case you are claiming some child tax credit and they need more information on that, maybe, they may ask you for that too, birth certificate. Then prior and subsequent tax returns, and then other substantiative and employment reimbursement policy, business entity supporting documents like operating agreement, partnership agreement, corporate bylaws, expense records. You claim certain expenses now and you deduct them on your tax return. They need to check whether they are allowable or not only after a complete review of your records or your books, your log, the odometer and all, right? And legal authority and then references. Here we have, in case you want to make certain claim on your tax return, what is that? You got to refer to Internal Revenue Code, income tax regulation, revenue rulings, revenue procedures, IRS notices, case law, IRS publication. All these are the reference points. All these are reference points for you. Private letter ruling, Internal Revenue Manual, authoritative versus non-authoritative, tax treaties and other international agreements. All these are different. You go to irs.gov, you will find all the information there. And any related issues, what is the timeline? Statute of limitation, it means what is the timeline? And then post-filing correspondence, then deadlines and timelines requirements, then third-party correspondence, then freedom of information, tax avoidance versus tax evasion, important. Avoiding tax, escaping tax, right? Both are different. Then tax return disclosure statements, then taxpayer advocate service. In case client has problem with the IRS, you can advocate. There is an advocate who can be your voice. So that is taxpayer advocate service. And then identity theft, given the improved, sophisticated, high-tech technology in place, even the white collar crimes or the cyber crimes are so much given to hacking, identity theft and all. So in case there's an identity theft, what can you do, right, to protect the interest of the client? That is something, okay. And then the last section, specific types of representation. Some 19 questions are here. Representing a taxpayer in the collection process. So he is not able to pay his taxes in full. IRS wants to seize his property. How do you handle that? Can you appeal that kind of a thing? Can you get an extension of time? Can we pay it in installments? Can we adjust it from other from other accounts of the taxpayer? And then what are the documents that we need to compile in case there is an audit? IRS officers can also visit your premises. Please remember that, right? Collection notice. What happens? You don't respond to the collection notice. And then levy and seizure. Then IRS collection summons. Summons are like notices. You get there, you got to respond to them. You don't respond, then it's not good for you. Then the different types of penalty, especially trust fund recovery penalty, amended returns, 1040X. When can you file? What is the timeline? And they can also revoke your passport, right? Cancel. Then what are the penalties applicable in case of collection or levy? You will get to learn about that. And how do you represent a taxpayer in case of audits or examination? One of the beauty of part 3 or an enrolled agent is that it gives you unlimited representation rights. In all 50 states in the US, it gives you unlimited representation rights. Okay, so and then limited practitioner privilege. Okay, all these are how you can represent the client, okay, in these events, different events that's listed there. And representing a taxpayer before appeals. Can he make an appeal? He doesn't agree with something. Can he make an appeal? Does he have the freedom to vent out his opinion? Yes, certainly he does, okay. And then you have enrolled agent appearance at appeals conference. Should you go just for a small notice? Do they call you for a personal meeting? No, not necessary. Many of the notices, it gets resolved just over the phone. Just over the phone. Or maybe some special cases, it may be needed. Then, completion of the filing process. Last section, 17 questions. Yeah, completion of the filing questions. Accuracy. How much can you rely on the software? Okay. Then inconsistencies with the source data, miscalculations, error by oversight, error intentionally, lack of due diligence, absolute gross negligence, right? They can make that out. They are IRS, okay? So I was telling the client, when we see, this was a joke, on the NAEA platform also, the National Association for Enrolled Agents. So we were talking about theirs. So I said, Nanda, the client was, telling me, Nanda, all my money is theirs. So I said, yeah, you're right when you say it is theirs, because it is the IRS. That's why it is theirs, Just kidding. Anyways, so information shared with the taxpayer, record keeping, what are the different records that you need to maintain, importance of your signature, then what if taxpayer is dishonest, he is under-reporting his income or misappropriating his expenses and all, what are the consequences of that, and if you are also, as a tax preparer, you are also part of that, then not good for you. Then length of time to retain returns and records, then list of returns prepared. Important, as a preparer, if you have signed the return, you have to have the list of returns you have prepared, the name, social security number, and the type of returns, because in case the IRS comes to you, you got to answer them. Due diligence requirements, data security, how are you maintaining the client's data? And now when you are going for ITIN and all, you have the COA, certificate of accuracy and all, right? Then application process to be an e-file service provider. To e-file a tax return, you need this EFIN, electronic filing identification number. So that's needed. Then advertising standards. What are the advertising standards? Okay. Then definition and responsibilities of an ERO. Then levels of infractions. EFIN revocation, can a EFIN be revoked? Then e-file authorization. You cannot file a client's tax return without getting a e-file confirmation. 8879, and also his signature. Okay. And how are rejected returns handled? Can you quickly submit them? If you are working in US tax industry and if you have filed the tax return, I'm sure you must be knowing that a return can also be filed again. And then identity theft procedures, and then resolution. IP pin. Given the current situation, you see so many phishing scams that's happening. So IP pin is something that protects the client's interest also. So folks, this was all about the what do you study in the enrolled agent license. Okay, so this is something directly from the IRS, from the Prometric Center. You have all the IRS syllabus. If you go to IRS website also, you can get the information there. For those of you who do not know, for the benefit of those who do not know, this is the IRS website. Okay, irs.gov, and you just go to the search section there or here, right? You just type about enrolled agent. Okay, you will get tons and tons of information about enrolled agent. Okay, you can go through this for more information, and if you still need more information, please feel free to contact our office. This is Nandakumar KV at Elite Tax Academy, right? I hope you enjoyed this session, and if you have enjoyed this session, please do like and share this video. So such a joy to have you all, and thank you very much that you have been with us this long. I really enjoyed sharing this information with you. So hi to Sarvana, hi to Deepthi, hi Joel, hi Alex, hi Dikshit, hi Vikrant, hi Anil, Sham, Sumit, Yashron, Biradar, Sneha, Devender. Thank you, Devender. Okay, I'm glad you enjoyed the explanation. Okay, so this, if I start talking about all your questions, that we will be getting into a different topic altogether. Okay, so I'm not getting into it. Okay, and hi Bhargav, hi Srikanth, hi Nancy, hi Ravi, Silveri, good to see you. Hi Sai Kiran. Yeah. Very good, very good. Thank you very, very much. And currently we are running some, discount offers and all. So you have our contact details right below, 9949579001. That's our WhatsApp number. You also have our email address and our phone number also, 1-800-572-9626. Call our office. Become an enrolled agent, America's highest tax expert. Yeah, all the very best, and we want to be part of your success journey. I mean, leadership is all about creating more leaders, and God's grace and support of people like you, we have been leaders in the industry, and we request you to give us an opportunity to make you one. Yeah, thank you very much for tuning us tonight, and if you like this, please share this video. Until I see you again next week, take care, good night, bye bye.